Hello and welcome to our fifth video. So, fireside chat. So it's getting cold. Anyway, what we thought would be a good opportunity for us to have a think about is, given that we're looking like we're emerging out of the shutdown and life's starting to return back to, or hopefully start moving back to some sort of normal, we thought it was important to think about what have we learnt through this experience and what can we apply and take forward into the future. And Christy, you've been doing a lot of really interesting reading on this. I mean, everything we've talked about and everything we have put forward in our videos is supported by evidence, so it's not just us prattling on about our opinions, and this video will be no different. So you've been doing quite a bit of reading and research around some really key learnings and takeaways from what we've all been going through for the last few weeks.
Yeah, so basically I've been reading a lot about sort of community and togetherness, and because that's really come up quite largely for me. And one of the books I've recently, I'm still only halfway through, but it's so research dense. It's called Together by Dr. I've got to get his name correct, Vivek Murthy, and he was actually chosen by Obama as the Surgeon General of the US when he was president. And this guy is pretty amazing. He shares a lot on loneliness. That came up really big within this book. And I think the thing that concerned me, even pre-COVID, was that the stats for Australian adults on loneliness is that 1 in 4 people experience loneliness and report that they are feeling lonely, which that's a huge statistic, and I don't think it's something that's really being talked about.
No, I think what's been really interesting through the experience of the shutdown is it's probably the shutdown has put a spotlight on loneliness, but I guess the point is it existed before, and the shutdown's just made it really kind of front of mind for a lot of us. Even talking to my mum, who's an extrovert living on her own, she's 79, and she's described this as one of the most difficult time in her life because she's lonely.
Yeah, and I think he sort of addresses in this book that together, working together, we can, it raises optimism and it also generates creativity, and there is a lot to be gained from working together as a community, which we've really experienced the heartbeat of that for us around our hometown. Friends and just community have really banded together, and it's been lovely. And this is something that's been needed pre-COVID, but it's something that is really important now.
So the impacts of loneliness on mental health are quite profound, and they're also equally profound on our physical health. So the more lonely people feel, it has a demonstrable impact, negative impact on their physical and mental health. And for many people that's been potentially and likely exacerbated through what we've been going through of late. Now, in some of our earlier videos, we talked about some strategies for trying to combat and mitigate loneliness and the anxiety of being isolated and in a shutdown, particularly finding meaning and purpose in things that are of significant interest to you. But Christy, you know, you had some really, really good thoughts about as we emerge now back to hopefully normal life, what are the things that all of us can really put top of mind to mitigate and combat any sense of loneliness and isolation in the communities that we live?
He talks a lot about different cultures as well, and what they've done successfully in the past, and how as soon as you're part of someone's community, you're someone to be taken care of. And I think there just is a general vibe that unless you're a friend of someone, you don't necessarily have to include them in your community. But the reality is the people around you, the people next door, the people down the street, the people at your local shops, they're all part of your community. And the more we can enrich that and work together and to support each other, the more that everyone benefits.
So community isn't necessarily the same thing as friendships.
No, because, you know, your community changes in size at different times. I have a really strong collection of friends that date back to childhood. Not a lot of them are actually in my local community. So you have to then build on what's in your local community in order to feel networked and supported.
I mean, one of the things that I've tried to do, not that I easily suffer from loneliness, I'm pretty comfortable with me, myself and I, but I've really, pre-COVID, focused on looking at what are the hobbies and interests that I find really inherently enjoyable and satisfying, and just started to get myself involved. And what was challenging with COVID is that all suddenly stopped as I was sort of getting momentum. But I'm going to get back to that because it means something to me, and it's not that I'm looking for mates. I've got my mates. What I'm looking for is just feeling connected, so when I walk down the street I can say, hey Gibbo, hey Mary, hey hello, how are you, what are you doing, how are your kids?
And I think
Just
it's really impacted by lots of different things, because we didn't grow up in the community we now live.
No.
So we are still the new kids on the block. That's okay, because as you said, we've got our friends. But I think what is important here is to differentiate the fact that we need to work together and support each other. And we are community, and we can build that through, you know, this book talks about how long phased out the just inviting people over to your home has now become. How we are tending towards technology to seek community. And he cites the fact that 20% of people feel inspired going on social media by the community, and 100% of the time most of people feel lesser than. So seeking community through social media is not really the best way. We need to do it in a face-to-face format. So, you know, and feeling that higher sense of purpose. He talks a lot about Murphy, talks about the men's shed and how dynamic that's been, especially for men in Australia, and how that's enriched their sense of worth and their happiness levels, which is awesome. But it's finding the right fit for you.
Yeah.
And you know what? My sense of loneliness probably peaks quicker than yours, because I have a greater need for social interaction. And when you're the definition of loneliness is when your social interaction levels or social needs are not being met. And at the moment, I think I feel that more than you do.
So going forward, what are the key takeaways? What can we do from what we've had a lot of time to self-reflect over the last few weeks. We've talked about different strategies around finding mindfulness, and mindfulness in a way that is meaningful to you, finding hobbies and pursuits that are have again, meaning and purpose for what you're about. Coming out of this, a lot of that was useful, hopefully. Hopefully it was useful to you in terms of keeping you distracted and keeping you busy and giving you structure and routine. But now we go back to work. Now we go back to school. Now we go back to all these, the normal things. How do we ensure that we don't find ourselves sort of accidentally slipping into a sense of loneliness and not being connected to the community around us?
I think now's the time to sit and activate those goals. Like, there's so many different components to everyone. Like, I love craft, so I've connected with people via craft. Also, not just connecting through alcohol. That is a really good thing to seek more than just drinking together. I mean, I love a few drinks, but there's so much more that you can access out of life. And, you know, as we've said in previous videos, that a lot of this time to think and reflect, you're only given when you're about to retire. So this is the time to implement those hobbies, to get involved, to seek a higher purpose than yourself. The act of giving, the act of volunteering actually gives you more than what it actually activates in the community, because you get that sense of there is more to life than, as Murphy says, there's more to life than competing for jobs. There's more to life than financial status. There's more to life than seeking to be better than. You know, there's depth that we can really access here, because the stats are telling us 25% of Australian adults are acknowledging that they feel lonely, and there's something that's got to be done.
So I'm working hard, I've got to pay the bills, I work long hours, where do I find the time?
I think you can start small. Like, I like that, manifesting something in a journal, making it grow, letting the idea foster. I'm writing and researching a book at the moment. That's something for me. I'm connecting with friends over coffee, connecting through coffee, putting your name down to sign up for something, scare yourself a little bit. Put your name down for something that you don't know anyone. That will increase your, ability to connect with others. Do it quietly. Just tune into what you want and what works for you, like your exercise group or...
finding community is going to be more natural and authentic and easier to schedule if it's built in and around things that you are naturally inclined towards, that you're interested in. You're going to meet people that you live with if you're pursuing the things that are of interest and meaningful to you. It's going to be easier to prioritise those things if they're of interest and meaning to you. And through that, connectedness naturally forms.
And I think too, it doesn't have to happen all at once. There's going to be a certain culture shock in going back into, what life is like after this isolation. For us, what works is going slowly and just, taking things as they come. The reason why we did a sea change is to become unbusy, and we like not being busy. Busy for us is overrated. Busy for us is missing out on everything. The loveliness of life. So I think it's really important too, that connection. I mean, another book I've read, I just wanted to mention, was Phosphorescence, and that's just magical. And that connection is not just about others, it's about connection to nature. And really, as soon as you go out in nature, a 15-minute walk in the park can really reset you. You don't have to be seaside. You can be in the city, but connecting to nature can really help your sense of positive mental health.
So in terms of creating that sense of community though, I think a really easy, simple thing to do is, if you won $1 million and you didn't have to worry about money, how would you spend your time? So find a way to prioritise 2 or 3 things that you would spend your time on. And start gentle, start small, but be persistent in pursuing that interest. The risk is we revert back to just being very, very busy on our phones, not connecting, and the loneliness that existed before COVID-19 perpetuates. And we're only going to have to face it again later on down the track when we reach retirement age, or we have to change jobs or something else. So the opportunity here is to learn from this experience and build that sense of focus for what gives you meaning and purpose. And through that, you create a sense of connectedness to your local community, and that mitigates loneliness.
And just one last thing to take away for me, that I've taken away from what we've been chatting about too, is that I want to fill my bank with deep, rich, solid connections, not money. Not money. I want to fill it with good people, and good connections, and just authentic connections. And that's what makes me feel great.
So go well, keep safe, look after yourselves.
Thank you for watching.
Bye.